All right, guys, we have a hot trade rumor coming into week 7, Cowboys fans, as we get set for Cowboys Commanders. We'll discuss it, plus the week 7 matchups for the Cowboys against the Commanders at home. And this is a must-win game, right? That is not hyperbole. Leave a comment down below. Like the video if you want to see the Cowboys get back to 500. We have all the biggest talking points and matchups. Take it away, Jimbo.
The only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys? Yeah!
All right, welcome back. Yes, I am Gavin Dawson from 105 Through the Fan. With me, as always, New Bear Lesniewski. And we're going to get to the trade rumors coming up in the back half of the show. Very credible source reporting the Cowboys are looking at a couple of big fish here, New Bear. This is fun. But definitely a must-win game is where I want to start with here, considering you're going to Denver against a great defense and offensive line next week. That's going to be a tough one. So I think if you lose this game, you're at 2-5-1. New Bear must win.
Yes, 1,000%. And almost as much as how do grown men who wear glasses wear backward hats? With like Dan, I'm doing this in honor of Dan Quinn. I'm trying to be silly, and I'm getting a headache 2 minutes into the show. And all kidding aside, if they don't show up this week and figure a whole bunch of stuff out, you're real quick now running into the trade deadline as sellers. And I don't want to live in a world where we're trying to figure out how Jerry justifies, going from 2-3-1, where we're talking about the best losses ever, into the toilet bowl where we're talking about how do we ever even escape from this hell on earth.
I mean, 2-5-1, there'd be no escape. He'd play 8 games and won only 2 of them. It would just be really hard to escape from.
I mean, and if Justin Gannon keeps hitting players and they keep responding and fighting back and winning games when they're punching back at the guys across from them, that Arizona game all of a sudden doesn't look super easy. If the Raiders don't trade Max Crosby to the Cowboys or anyone else, and they don't go into sell mode, like it's not like they're just showing up with a bunch of dudes to walk over. The Washington Commanders are actually showing up this week like a team that already sold all its good players because everyone's hurt. If you can't figure it out right now, why would you believe that you're going to figure it out at all?
I mean, the second half of the schedule is brutal. This was where you were supposed to get healthy. To answer your question, there is nothing that can stop Dan Quinn from being cool. He's old. He's got his hat on backwards. The players absolutely love him. He's rocking Jordans most of the time, and everything else about Dan Quinn screams, this guy should not be cool. This guy, the players are probably snickering about him behind his back, but couldn't be further from the truth. Everybody, I think, that's ever played for Dan Quinn absolutely loves the guy. But yeah, definitely a must-win game because why? McLaurin and Samuel both confirmed out for these games. These injuries have actually moved the spread. At the beginning of the week, it was Commanders favored by 2.5. The Cowboys are now favored by a point as a late line move in the week confirmed this, that, bettors believe that with these two guys out, the Cowboys are the better team. I don't think so. I think the only reason I'm picking the Cowboys to win this game is perhaps they're the more desperate team right now, and they're at home. And I think this offense has a lot of pent-up frustration it's going to let out, and they'll end up just outscoring the Commanders. But I think the Commanders are the better team.
So this is one of the ones where all the stats about the number of hurries and the pressure rate, because the big thing is they're not getting home. Like the big thing that we've talked about week after week after week is every stat that PFF loves, we hate because it means they're not getting home. They're not getting the job done. And they go home with, less points than the other team. And we're sitting here at 2-3-1 when it should be a completely different scenario based on having the number 1 offense in the league. Now you add to that Mr. Virtual reality. Now you add to that, and he looks like he's healthy, right? You add to that the dude who took the league by storm as a rookie when everyone, including me, was concerned about his recklessness with his own body. Looks like he's learned how to protect himself. Looks like it's touchdown, first down, get down for real. And because of all the different technology stuff that he does, his spatial awareness is unlike anyone else. You're going to put Jadeveon Clowney and company in hell because they're going to be in limbo because can you maintain your lanes? Can you do your assignment? Because they have nobody to throw to. And then all of a sudden, he's going to wiggle out of there and flip one over the top to Christian McCaffrey's little brother, and we're all going to go WTAF. And it's like, if they can't figure it out this week, they're not going to figure it out for the rest of the season.
Well, I mean, they've already lost to the Commanders and Bears, so I do think it's highly possible that they lose this game. But I think you just nailed it right there. This Commanders running game is so damn good. It's one of the few that's better than the Cowboys. They're at 5.5 yards per attempt, and what we've seen over the last couple of weeks just does not give me a lot of confidence they're going to be able to slow down the Commanders at all. I think McCaffrey and Ertz are going to have monster days. I think the McCaffrey parents, Ed and what's her name, they're gonna be actually thinking maybe we have 2 stars in this family in the NFL by the time this.
Well, and that's what they drafted him to be. Like, everyone thought he was going to be the big sleeper. Shout out Lisa, by the way. Like, let's not just she was a hell of an athlete in her own right. I mean, Easy Ed is Easy Ed, but the brothers talk all the time about how mom really ran camp, right? So,
well, she's the feisty one. We had her on the show a couple of years back on Radio Row because we got in a little snafu talking about McCaffrey, and everybody in San Francisco is really mad at us. And she came onto that show and gave us hell, dude. We gave it right back. But
because the other brother played at Duke too, right? Like, it wasn't like, man, you want to talk about apple not falling far from the tree, but McCaffrey name aside, McCaffrey traits aside, you're talking about what have you done in this league all time? And you're talking about McLaurin being down, Debo being down, and you're talking about dudes with hyphens and dudes being related to dudes who are good. And you're just making up stories in terms of production. You're making up stories in terms of Jaden Daniels can just make chicken salad out of chicken shit. And if you believe that, and you believe that you should be afraid of that, and this is a week where you're already going to be making excuses about how you blew that, then Eberflus should be fired. Diggs should be traded. You should nuke the whole thing. This is one of those batten down the hatches weeks. This is everyone in a circle, arms around each other. Who's giving the speech? Is it D4K? Is it CD? I'm back. Whoever's in the huddle leading this team out of the tunnel, whoever's in the huddle, that voice in the ear, chirping in the ear hole, one play at a time, one first down at a time, one touchdown at a time, one stop at a time, one turnover at it, one sack at a time. This is one of those batten down the hatches weeks where whatever it takes, and it might take everyone, it might take every inch, every second, because we already saw them go into overtime and tie, putting up 40, giving up 40. So who knows? Because everything's on the table with this team. When you're the best offense and the worst defense, it's literally everything on the table in between.
We did about a 30-minute show talking about the Trayvon Diggs concussion and CeeDee Lamb's return. We'll put that up on the screen right now if you want to bookmark that and maybe go back and watch it after you're done watching this video. So if you're wondering where the Trayvon Diggs chatter is, we're going to get into talking about some of the matchups, but the Cowboys have made a couple of roster moves, and it's up next here on How About Wow. As I go to the Twitter account of John Machota, they activated Kalen Carson. Second-year corner, had a pretty disappointing rookie year, but year 2 corner, sometimes it can take some time. We'll hope he's better. He is listed as questionable, but he has been removed now from the game status report. So I believe Kalen Carson is playing, but they're also elevating running back Malik Davis from the practice squad. And that's what I want to talk about right here with you. I thought this could be a game for Jaden Blue, to really have his coming out party. Because they need somebody to take it to the outside and beat the Commanders' defense on the edge where they're giving up nearly 5 an attempt. I think it's around 3.5 between the tackles. It's over 5 outside the tackles. And, we'll talk about how important it is. You're getting Tyler Booker back and Tyler Smith. Are those guys, along with Brock Hoffman, going to be able to get a push that contains Payne and Kinlaw and Bobby Wagner in the middle? I don't know. But going off of what it was last week against, was it Brown, Robinson, and Brown for Carolina? They didn't even need good linebackers to get the job done. They were really punishing the Cowboys offensive line up the middle. So, Hopefully Malik Davis can add that element, or they're going to get back to inspiring confidence with the fans and media with what Clayton Adams has cooked up, because that really gave me pause last week. I'm still very confident in Clayton Adams. What they were able to do against the Jets with 4 different offensive linemen was inspiring, and maybe it was just unsustainable in the end.
So I don't care who's up after Javonte Williams. If Javonte Williams is healthy, when I talk about batting down the hatches, he needs 30 touches, and they might all need to be carries, and it might need to be 30 carries for 99 yards. That's stubborn, that frustrating, that gritty of a game. When you look through this season, well, he should be fresh because he only had 13 carries against Carolina for 29 yards. Okay, feed him. Because when he went for 16 for 135 and a tutty against the Jets, they figured it out. When he was 20 for 85 and a tutty against Green Bay, they were there the whole way. Against Chicago, he was nowhere to be found because of game script, game flow, air quotes. I can't stand it. Stay in the game, stay with what you do, and let this dude run out of tread. I don't care about next year. I care about this week and what it takes for us to remain relevant, to be buyers toward the trade deadline, where we take care of business against the Raiders if we don't against the Broncos, and we're putting ourselves in a position to say, this is who we are, this is what we're going to do. We're either spending picks, we're spending money, or we're nuking the whole thing, or we're just going to pretend like there's nothing to see here and play it out week to week and be fine going into week 18, needing to win and needing help from everyone else. I'm fine with whatever the outcomes are. If you go into this week and you say, we're emptying the chambers and we're Pickens 15 targets, CeeDee Lamb 15. I don't want to see this be a cutesy thing where it's like, oh yeah, they came up short, but look at all this future we have with Flournoy or fucking Span Ford or anybody. Your guys are your guys, and they're better than the other guys' guys.
Yeah, and that's where it has to start when it comes to the matchups, is in your passing game. That is by far your biggest advantage. Even if your tackles give up pressure, I think you like their ability to get the ball out on schedule and make them pay. But I think about Guyton and Steele against the Commanders' edges, and they don't bring a lot to the party there. Dorrance Armstrong is a pretty good player. Preston Smith, I think, is washed up. Frankie Louvu is more of an inside linebacker, it's turned out, than an edge type of player. And then on the corners, like Marshawn Lattimore is so gettable. They made the trade for him last year. I don't know if there's been a more disappointing trade in the NFC over the last 12 months than what they got for Marshawn Lattimore. Trey Amos is a pretty good corner, but when you're talking about Lamb and Pickens, pretty good corners should, still be liable to get toasted.
Am I wrong, or is Dorrance Armstrong hurt and it's going to be Preston Smith? And if I'm wrong about that, I apologize. But, when you go through, and I'm not just trying to get a plug-in for former
some Von Miller.
Say again.
Maybe some Von Miller. I mean, they got their other 2 backup ends are on IR. Dietrich Wise was hurt in week 1 or week 2. So I don't know if they have any other real defensive ends to put out there. I think they're going to have to go with more of an outside linebacker type and maybe pressing Von Miller into more snaps than they had planned if Dorrance Armstrong is out. Let me go ahead and double check that. I see him as questionable on the report.
Well, and you know me, I love traits, and Daron Payne is a guy, for a long time, when you go back, he's just one of those big, ugly dudes that you don't want to see in a dark alley. And Javon Kinlaw is one of those dudes where you're like, almost like Jadeveon Clowney, like, how is this dude not in the Hall of Fame? And I guess I try to go through week to week and say, who are the guys that we're not talking about, or what are the things that could pop up given, all the things that you almost take for granted. Like, at a certain point, don't backups have to get beat? At a certain point, aren't the other team's starters going to find there's enough tape and week to week variance in someone's game with their hand punch or their set or the cadence or the tendencies or whatever? I mean, if we're going to talk about how good Dan Quinn is and how cool Dan Quinn is, 28-3 notwithstanding, week to week, this is one of those dudes that you believe in is going to figure out a way to get things done. And excuse me, when you unpack how they're going to go into this and attack what the guys with the stars on their helmets are going to do, you go, man, how do you look at these two rosters and see anything other than a path to victory for the boys in blue?
Should be a victory. I think their defense is not only the worst, it's significantly worse than anybody else. You know, they can't stop the big plays or the run. I think they've pivoted to trying to get a handle on the big plays more than the run. But I've learned now after how this season has gone to just not trust what my gut says and what my eyes are seeing on paper. Other matchups of significance in this game. I wanted to look at one other thing here with you, and I guess that would be your edges against their right tackle, Josh Connerly. Laramie Tunsil's really good at left tackle. Whoever's hot, put him over Connerly there on the offense's right side and hope to get home. We definitely need more from James Houston. I don't think they should be trying to hedge their bets and stop the run. Whoever can get home. You're obviously looking at a Dante Fowler game. Maybe he's a little bit fired up. He played the Commanders and Dan Quinn last year. They didn't want him back. Maybe this is a game for Ezaraku, who's second in the NFL in rookie pressures right now. I'm still waiting for him to break out and show me that he can actually be a star, not just a pretty good, edge player. But I think Connerly's a blinking light. Like I'm trying to do whatever it takes to get him exposed a half dozen times throughout this game.
Sorry, I muted myself. I muted myself because I was concerned about the frog in my throat. And my big thing right now that I've been trying to figure out is if I'm Cliff Kingsbury looking at this defense, where am I going to attack if I don't have any wide receivers? And what gets really interesting is
running and play action.
Well, running and play action, but then throwing to the guys you fake the ball to. And these running backs coming out of the backfield, whether that's screen, whether that's the LaDainian Tomlinson, best ever running the Texas route to ever do it. I just wonder when you look at everything that Jaden Daniels does well and you take Terry McLaurin away and you take Debo away and you take some of your chess pieces off the board, how does this kind of get inverted, right? Because I was joking earlier about I'm not trying to make excuses to get squeeze Kentucky guys in, and I'm not expecting this to be a game where Chris Rodriguez gets 25 carries and wins fantasy leagues out of nowhere. But Krosky Merritt and Nichols, and when they made the move to ship, when they made the move to make the trades that put them in a position after Eckler and all the different things happen at the beginning of this season where you go, man, they really look like they're going to be in trouble in this backfield, and now all of a sudden it's a speed, it's a slippery, it's a hey, how do we get these guys in space, and how do we play off of everything that Jaden does well? And so I don't know. I wonder if there is something like the same way that if you watch the Thursday night game, the Green Bay Packers are looking at how the Steelers defended empty sets because the Flacco, it wasn't just Higgins and Chase. Like, it's not just those two guys out wide. Yoshavash and someone else has to go make a play for the Cincinnati Bengals. So when those things apply, when people get hurt or people get traded or people are up and down, week to week, if someone gets a hot hand, you write it. But what if you come into a game and you don't know how to manufacture that? And it's literally a play-to-play thing, and then how do you play off of that? What we talked about a couple of pods ago was how bleeped up this linebacker room is for the Cowboys. And Sanborn, Sanborn might know where to be, but he doesn't have that top end speed. Murray does, but he doesn't know where to go. Which way is up, left from right, 2 left feet. And Leafau has the ability to go murk one of these dudes and put him in the blue tent, but also has the ability to just completely get burnt toast. So as we unpack this thing, if I'm the Washington Commanders, and I'm looking at places where I can attack the Dallas Cowboys, I'm looking at my matchups, not just in the run game, but with my running backs, horizontal, vertical stretch all over this field, and how I can make it hell on earth for Eberflus and company.
Yeah, I mean, the soft spot in the zone over the middle, I think, should be gold. The flats, the screens, the difficulty tackling that the Cowboys defense has shown, like, you don't have to throw it far to get 30 yards against this Cowboys defense. And, that's the real unfortunate part. And, I mean, to answer your question, I don't want Kenneth Murray on the field anymore. I want to develop these young guys. So I'm going Sanborn as my green dot middle linebacker. I'm going Shamar James, and I'm going Leofau, to try to make some plays. Up next here on How About Wow, we got to look at the trade market. We have 10 minutes of show remaining, and we're first going to go to Charles Robinson from Yahoo, who wrote about the first-round picks the Cowboys got in the Micah Parsons deal. And I'm not going to share a screen. I don't want to bog down the buffering or anything like that. But he says he is hearing, because Jones reiterated this week, as he has multiple times since the trade, that the Cowboys have the ammo. So he's saying he believes the Cowboys are going to make offers for plus-size talent on the level of Trey Hendrickson, who, by the way, the Eagles are preparing to make an offer for. And
49ers too.
And yes, and the 49ers, but also the Cowboys will be making an offer for Titans defensive tackle Jeffrey Simmons.
Who's the one player besides Cam Ward that they said they won't trade.
Right. So that means you got to offer more. When a team like the Dolphins are saying we're not going to trade Jalen Waddle. Okay, well, we've been talking about it for 3 weeks, which means the phone has been ringing. Those teams know they're in a rebuild, and they don't like the offers that have been made so far. So, oftentimes as a deadline approaches, teams say stuff like this, like the Cowboys, we're never trading Micah Parsons. They said that and said that and said that right up until the day that it happened, and then we found out they'd actually been talking about it for a couple of weeks. So that's big right there. The Cowboys, in a separate report from Diana Rossini, are letting the league know that they are, quote, open for business, and they're trying to get something done. I think if you lose this game, you got to do it next week and hope that it pushes you over the top to have a result against the Broncos. Like, I thought they should have done a trade earlier this week in preparation for a must-win game against Washington. So when it comes, if they're 2-5-1, I think you have to look at this more like New Bear, not we're fixing this team to make a run this year, but we're just fixing this team and looking at this trade deadline as one of the other player acquisition windows we have. This is just like free agency or the offseason. We're just trying to make this team better for the future. And both those players is what they should be doing. You shouldn't be looking at this like, let's get one player. You should be looking at it like, let's really freaking load up.
Broadus is going to love this. I'm just sitting here catching a commercial. SEC Network Miracles. Have you seen this coming out? And you know what I just saw?
That is very Broadus like of you, though, to be watching TV and have a squirrel moment in the middle of a topic, though. So
the bluegrass.
I guess we're heading for 30,000 views here real quick.
The Bluegrass Miracle just popped up, and Devery Henderson. I hate Devery Henderson forever. We lost the game. We're on a 75-yard Hail Mary where the ball traveled like 44 yards in the air. We had 10,000 fans ripping down a goalpost because they thought we won. They didn't realize that LSU had scored. It was Nick Saban LSU. Bluegrass Miracles literally is the name of the show, and the first show is about us losing to LSU. So coming back to the trade deadline stuff, the thing that just kind of chaps my ass about this is that the Cowboys are in a position like the Raiders. Because the number one thing I want to talk about from an engagement farm perspective, from Jones fan perspective, is when the Raiders lose to the Chiefs this week, go get Max Crosby. When the Saints go get, we talked about the money involved in it, but, DeMario Davis, Chris Olave, go get Jalen Waddle, who you just brought up. Go get Jalen Phillips on that same team, right? Who they're rumored to be shopping, former first-round pick who can't figure it out.
I don't want him. I was going to mention him because Brandon Laurie mentioned him in a post. Like that's one of the other players in Miami, along with Bradley Chubb. I just Phillips hasn't stayed healthy.
Right. Neither Chubb has had some interesting stuff too. All I'm saying is I hate the fact that this is why this is a must-win game. You beat the Commanders, everything is still in play. You beat the Commanders, you play the Broncos, and you're expecting to win that game. You're expecting to make life hell for them that week because you control your own destiny. You are going to get Max Crosby or whoever else it is you think is going to split the difference between another ring and the engagement farm. You lose this game this week, and now the Broncos game is literally the difference between you and the Miami Dolphins. That's
Yeah.
how tenuous this situation is.
I wanted to get your thoughts on Max Crosby. I think that's a more ideal target than Trey Hendrickson. I think he's 3 years younger, but more importantly, he plays the run. And I don't think these edges that don't play the run in a league that is getting back to running the football is a great way to spend 35 or 40 million dollars. Like, can you get TJ Watt or Myles Garrett or Max Crosby? I think those guys are significantly different and better and more valuable than Micah Parsons and Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah. Max Crosby.
We're seeing in Green Bay right now, just to finish this up, their defense is ranked 22nd in EPA per play. Micah has not pushed them into elite defense status. He might have taken them farther away if you subtract Kenny Clark from the mix. Think about that.
So I wasn't trying to step on you. I got a little bit excited because it's easy for me to talk about this. So Max Crosby is to TJ Watt like Myles Garrett is to Trey Hendrickson. When you look at the way they play, the counting stats, TJ Watt, I've talked a lot about in Pittsburgh about how the reason you can justify paying him is he's going to age okay. He's going to age just fine because even if he's not throwing up the 17.5, the 19, the 21 sack season, he's going to be the number one run defender. And you can count on him dictating other things to the other team. When you look back over time, Trey Hendrickson has these huge stat numbers. And he's a very, very, very good edge rusher. I mean, you don't do 17.5 2 years in a row. You don't grade out the way he does. You don't get paid. You don't have people talk about you the way. I'm not saying Trey Hendrickson isn't a good player, but when you compare the numbers, like at a certain point, if I'm a football man and I'm writing a check for my team and I'm a football guy and I'm in the huddle with my teammates, I don't want to see film where you're not scraping your ass off just in case. That's the thing that TJ Watt does, that Max Crosby does, that Trey Hendrickson and Myles Garrett don't do. And that's why you see Max Crosby with 89, 90 tackle seasons. And that's why you see Trey Hendrickson and Myles Garrett down there in the 30s and 40s. Like it's a different level of every play. Max Crosby is a fucking psycho. The game just means something different to him. And anybody who's out there talking about how Myles Garrett's in Cleveland and the Browns are the worst, and how could you get up if you were in Cleveland? Bro, the Raiders have been ass for most of Max Crosby's career. And all you see is him giving everything he has.
Yeah, and I think it's great to have a Micah Parsons if you're playing with a 2-touchdown lead in the fourth quarter. Just turn out the lights.
Yeah, give me Dwight Freeney and Robert Mathis if it isn't 1st and 10 against Eddie George.
Get the ambulance idling. Down in the bowels of the stadium. We might have a quarterback running back here on a stretcher real quick. But, I think guys that can play the run as well allow you to be behind and choke their run as well. And I think people get caught up in those fourth quarters when you're playing with the lead. I think maybe the biggest problem with Green Bay right now is their offense isn't good enough to create those kind of leads that can really put Micah Parsons in the game situation that he needs to look like the defensive player of the year. Outside of those situations, watching him go, and then you also have to bring up how good the Cowboys are, how good the Bengals were the other night at mitigating pressure by just getting rid of the ball quicker.
Well, and that's something Dak's done all year. And it's something that it's not just about it being built into the offense, like on a 0-step, a 1-step, a 3-step drop. It's built into the offense because Dak understands now more than ever where the pressure is going to come from, where his guy maybe gets beat. And if he does, this is the emergency brake. And it's no longer, and I'm a better athlete. I can reverse pivot. I can hit, pull down whatever trigger and whatever button is reverse out plus turbo on whatever gaming platform you prefer, because he doesn't have that anymore. He has the straight line stuff. He can go get you a traditional Tecmo Bowl John Elway touchdown, and he can go boot when he has to, and he can go ruin your game at the end of the day, like Flacco did to the Steelers the other night, when you're not expecting it, because it's not built into the way that they do business. But
Okay.
what he can do now because of that is he has to trust everything with the protection in front of him and with everything that everyone else is doing. And that is why, and I've said this a couple of times, the tape says ask for help, the number 4. He knows everything about this offense, even and including and especially when it breaks down.
Yeah, and you got to take advantage of this very unique window Dak is in, where he's still young enough to have his experience give him this really massive advantage. I mean, he's playing in a league with guys, who are mostly on their rookie contracts, and he's been in this thing for 10 years. Like, the advantage when it comes to the chess game in between Dak's ears is so massive right now. You got to take advantage of it. Okay, our guy Brandon Laurie made the point that multiple other teams are looking for defensive line help. You just made that point as well, but you might have to overpay. And if you want to see the Cowboys make a trade, I don't think that is advantageous to the situation. Like, if you got to beat out the Eagles and Niners, who are historically more aggressive, that might not bode well. You might have to wait for a team to get desperate in the 11th hour of the trade deadline, where they're like, okay, take what we can get. And maybe the Cowboys end up with a player like Phillips as compared to, a player like a Max Crosby. At that point, you just have to hope that they stay healthy. The Jets are getting calls for Breece Hall and linebacker Jermaine Johnson. The Lions are looking for an edge as well. The Colts are looking for a corner. Maybe they could be interested in
Send Diggs to Indy. Let him eat at St. Elmo's for the rest of his miserable life.
The Giants are not working to add talent at wide receiver. That's in division. I know a lot of Giants fans are disappointed by that, but you're just not in a go-for-it window. I think they're too excited about Jackson Dart.
I think the Saints want too much for Olave, because I think that they think he's going to go to a team where he's a number 2 and just run 10-yard out routes for the rest of his life and protect his brain. Like, they want a 1, they want a 2, they want not a 6. Like, I feel like the Olave trade should be requisite to the number of concussions. So he's had 5, give up a 5th.
Cowboys Commanders 325 on Sunday. We will be back on Monday with a recap and our reactions to it, hopefully talking about a Cowboys win. Check out our post-game series, The Wow Factor. It's in our shorts in our library, where we celebrate the top plays from Cowboys game day.
I celebrate you, man. That's you doing work.
Great, I love stuff. It. I love that kind of short form content. So we'd appreciate it if you could subscribe and hit that like button for us on the way out. That's the number one thing you can do back for us. And it just helps us get distribution and lets YouTube know that, hey, maybe these guys, got a decent show going. So for New Bear, I'm Dawson. Until next time, how about wow?